All right. We're here with Jim the Beast Alers. Right?
Alers, yeah, there we
Alers.
go.
I always say it wrong.
Everybody does.
Jim the Beast Alers. And he is, you've got 25 pro fights under your belt. You're the king of combat sports.
Combat is what I like to say.
Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, bare knuckle. You were in the UFC. Your husband, you got 2 kids. You own an academy.
Yes.
Alers Martial Arts.
Alers Martial Arts, yeah.
In Pembroke Pines. We used to be neighbors.
Yeah.
And when I would open my back door of my warehouse, I would look straight across, and you were across the street.
What is this?
Yeah, and I went over and looked at it one day. I remember I'd already met you, total coincidence, at a restaurant in Weston, Florida. And I didn't know who you were, but the waiter was a buddy of mine. And we'd always trade workout tips and stuff. And he came over and said, "Hey, you know who that guy is?" And he told me, and I went up to you and we chatted.
Oh, nice.
But then that other time I was looking through your window.
And it was destined for us to meet and work together.
Yeah. And I was looking through your window and I go, a jiu-jitsu academy here. And I just started jiu-jitsu at that time. And you and your partner walked up and I go, "Oh, crap, they're going to think I'm going to break in." And you showed me around. And since then, my wife and I have trained at your academy a couple of times. And you've come over to where I train. So thanks for being here, man.
Oh, of course. It's awesome. My pleasure.
So I know you're a fighter. I know this is in your DNA. Did you grow up fighting? What happened as a kid? How do these warriors get made?
How does fighting happen? Yeah. So, I got into a lot of fights in my middle school years, I would say. Don't know why. Maybe I was like getting picked on and I just didn't like it. And I'm like, I became somebody who like also stood up for other people getting picked on. So if I saw bullies, I was like, "Hey, like, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you fight me?" Even not if I was bigger or stronger or anything, but, I was just like, "Hey, I have a little bit of experience fighting, hopefully I can help this kid out." And just kind of did that for a little bit. Not that I wanted to, getting in trouble. My parents put me in Goju karate, and it was okay. I'm nothing crazy about it that wanted to keep me there. But the sparring, whenever we did sparring, I loved that part. The katas, not so much, but the sparring I would do great. And it like just kind of, that was like my first spark of like martial arts, I would say.
How old were you?
I was maybe like in middle school, like 11, 12, around there. And that's like where I really like started to like martial arts, but then just kind of fell off from there with school and everything, and wrestling is what really brought me into the martial arts world. I'd say wrestling is a martial art for sure on its own. And then found that in high school, and that's what really got me to think, man, I'm pretty good at like this grappling stuff. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was really yet, but I just started wrestling, and I just kind of got into the varsity team really fast, and just it became my love. Is all I can think about. I was wanting to train in the mornings, train after school, go to other schools to learn from other coaches, which is something I still do now in the jiu-jitsu world, which a lot of black belts don't do, but we can get back into that. After wrestling in high school, I still wanted to wrestle, but just was not in the plans of where I wanted to go in the future. I wanted to be a firefighter, so that kind of got on the back burner. I went to go be a firefighter, realized that's not for me. During my paramedic and EMT ride-alongs, just people die. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. People die.
Yeah.
This is what they're doing. These people are saving these people. And it was just like, I had one death and then another death. And I'm like, man, I can't deal with this. I don't know how people can turn it off. Yeah. So I was like, this is not for me. I went back to school, went to UCF. And while I was at UCF, I was just like, man, I just miss competition, and went to the wrestling team that they have over there. It's like a club, but it was just like too crazy for me. I thought it was just going to be like a fun thing that I do on the side as a hobby, but they took it super serious. And I was like, maybe this is not for me just yet. Then I was just like Googling just like wrestling type things. I found a jiu-jitsu school, Gracie Baja in Orlando. I walked in. It was the only school back then that was in Orlando. And I just looked at them, and they were in their pajamas. And I was like, it looks kind of like wrestling. I'll do it. Didn't even try class. I signed up and just fell in love with the fact that I was 18 years old and I'm coming in and 13-year-olds are triangling me. 50-year-olds are just talking to people and throwing me over their head. And I thought of myself as a good athletic wrestler. And I was like, I can't believe this, and I think people go both ways when that happens. They either go, screw this, I'm not going to do this anymore. Or like, man, I need to learn that superpower that these guys have. And that's kind of how it just all started from there.
So whoever's listening to this and is thinking of joining jiu-jitsu or just started recently, that is so good to hear that you felt those challenges from people that you wouldn't expect it, right?
Right.
I got tossed around by a 13-year-old girl my first few months in jiu-jitsu. She was choking me, taking my back, ankles, everything you could think of. And I remember, fortunately, I didn't quit. I thought, she knows a superpower. How could a 13-year-old girl beat back then I was 44 when I started.
Right.
And I got to learn this stuff.
Yeah. And that's how I tell it to my kids. I'm like, guys, you're learning this superpower that no one else is going to have, and if you need it, it's there for you.
So I heard that a blue belt should be able to beat 90% of the untrained population out there. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think I truly believe that. By the time you're a blue belt, you should be able to defend yourself against someone who knows nothing off the street. The problem is nowadays, UFC is growing super big. People are practicing in their garage. They're doing garage jiu-jitsu or YouTube jitsu. And so people are learning things, but for the most part, someone who knows nothing, they just have no idea of what it really takes to be in a fight, and in jiu-jitsu, we learned that, hey, like, we don't even need to hit you, right? It's all about control, and just knowing my opponents or my partner's next movements and just being ahead of them. So I believe if you're a blue belt, especially one of my blue belts, and you can't defend yourself against just an everyday Joe, we got a lot to work on.
So the average person might think that they'll see red and they're super pumped up because they lift weights.
Yeah, for sure. As an owner, I get every day people come in, and our school is more of an MMA school. I would say, yes, we have jiu-jitsu, but we have kickboxing. We teach MMA. We do everything. So I get people coming in, and they're like, hey, I want to fight on the next combat night. And I'm like, in a month from now? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what kind of experience do you have? Like, I have over 100 street fights. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. And I was like, let's see, come in, we'll see how you do. And, one of the first things I do is I put them with like my wife, and they're just like, belt, right? Yeah, she's a purple belt now. She got second in the world in her division and everything in Nogi. And I'm like, all right, let's see how you're doing. And she's just wrecking them, and I'm like, you still think you're ready to fight against a grown man who's been training also your size? I'm like, she's also smaller than you. And they're like, it humbles a lot of people. And that's just really what jiu-jitsu does. It humbles you and just makes you like rethink a lot of what you thought about yourself.
Where you are in the pecking
you're like,
order.
oh man, God, I can't believe this just happened. I need to figure this out.
Yeah. I think it does two things in both directions. Sounds ironic, but it can humble you if you think you're so great. But it could also build up your confidence if you come into your gym with no confidence, but you got to stick with it. Yeah. And after a year or two, you start getting some confidence, right?
I see that a lot in the teenagers. So we have like a teen self-defense class. Awesome class. I love this class. It's through this system called the Crazy Monkey Defense System. And the teens that come in, they come in almost all the same. They come in with their parents and they're just looking at the ground, not looking at me, or they're on the phone, and their parents all have the same issues. Hey, like, I just want him to build confidence. I just feel like he's not a people person or this. And I'm like, all right, first thing, hey, get off that phone. When you're in here, that's put away. You don't need that. And the second is like, hey, like, look at me in the eyes. That's another thing that I teach them right away. Look at me in the eyes, shake my hand. Those are things that are just so uncommon now for a lot of kids. Everything's on the screen. So I'm big against the screens on that, so I get these teens that come in with no confidence. And then we just build that up. We show them videos of situations that happen to kids in school. Hey, look, this is what happened. Why did it happen? Look, they were on their phone, not paying attention, not aware of these things. This is why this girl was kidnapped. Just little things like that do like, hey, you need to be more aware. You need to be more confident in your skills. And basically that's what we've been doing in that teen class, which is awesome. And I just seen these kids just totally change. They come in talking to people now, have friends, and that's just a community we're trying to build.
So they're there to learn how to fight, but you're helping them become better boys and girls, better boys men and women.
Yeah, it's not just about fighting. Hopefully they never have to fight. That's the goal. Hopefully they never have to. But I want them in the back of the head to know, hey man, like I know I can, you know, and by being a kind person and by being a good leader, you know, I can lead the way to help others and be around other friends that hopefully will do the same thing.
Do you ever, I don't know, I have a theory. I won't share it yet because I want to hear your thoughts on it. Is there anyone who trains jiu-jitsu to go then be a bully?
Man, so I don't think that's their goal ever at first, but I think some people just, they come in and maybe they get so good or something, and it just turns into that persona that people start making. I think now with the whole, you know, what Conor McGregor did with the UFC, and of course now Gordon Ryan in jiu-jitsu, it just becomes like, hey, they're trying to be a bully, but I don't know if that's what most people, I would say the majority of people are not. I think you will see people not come in, even if they're the best in the world, and they're like, man, that's a mean person in the cage, but out the cage, they're just like the kindest people in the world.
You're a perfect example of that. How did you go from when you were in the cage? You could look up your fights on YouTube, and you're an absolute beast. That's your name, and you're a monster. And then I see you. I've never seen you not smiling. I've never seen you speaking mean to anybody. How do you do that?
Right. So, I mean, I don't take any of it personal. I think even if we have banter back and forth, me and my opponent, you know, what is there after you go in there and you physically fight each other? What else do you have to say to each other? What else do you have to prove? You know, that's the end of all battles there. We went in there, we gave it all we got, we beat the shit out of each other, and you know, it's the end. We left it all out there, you know. So I never look at it as like anger at my opponent or anything like that. It's just it's a sport. It's a way for me to grow myself. I go back to my matches and I'm like, oh man, I can improve this way, I can do this. Just everything, you know, in that sense, where just it's not about being a mean person or fighting with emotions. You know, I try to fight with my mind so that I'm making the right calculated decisions. And just, I call it controlled chaos a lot of times. Like, it may look like everything's happening so fast and what's happening, but, you know, this is just constant reps and constant movement. And I think it just helps, you know, going in there. If you see people who are just angry, they don't have a way to vent. They don't have a way to get it out maybe in some way. Where we as jiu-jitsu guys or martial artists, we know, like, man, when we're in there, we don't have to think about anything that's happening, you know, bills or work or this. When you're in the gym, it's all out. When you come out, you're like a new man, you know?
Yeah, you know, that I have trouble sometimes meditating, sitting there calmly and trying to get out of my mind. But I find jiu-jitsu does that for me. It's an active meditation because you're right. You can't think of you can get into the gym with all these problems on your mind. At the end, they don't seem so bad, right? After you've let it all out of your system. So you talked about helping kids when you were young who were being bullied. What else was there anything in your childhood that created you into this beast inside the octagon? Again, you're a great person, but anything happened there?
No, I mean, definitely grew up. So, man, my childhood was different than a lot of other people's from where I grew up from. I grew up in, I don't know if people know the area, but by 441 and like Pembroke Road in Hollywood, not the best area.
Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah, in Hollywood, in that area. But my mom, she worked in what was becoming Pembroke Pines. It was this new city at the time. All the you know, just, I would say, people who had more money, you know, they lived over there, so the schools were better and everything. So my mom, she set up like some kind of fake address for me to go to school over there. And of course, you know, she's like, hey, you can't tell anybody your real address, this, that. And I had to just kind of hide it the whole time. So I was never really allowed to play with friends outside of school, you know, because I didn't live around there. You know, I got picked up. I went straight to my mom's job or went home. And
did that cause any thing in your mind? Like, you're a little different? Did it put a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, I was a little different, you know. So, like, of course, everyone else had some money. You know, they had the nicer things. Of course, like, hey, like, what are you wearing? What kind of shoes are those? You know? And it just made me want to hustle and grind, you know? Like, I was like, okay, I want some of these nice things, you know? So started selling candy and selling drinks, whatever I can to have my first little business, you know, and making some cash to, you know, at the time I thought were important things like getting new shoes or the right pair of pants or something like that.
Well, it was important in the sense that gave you your first feeling of, I could do these things on my own.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I can figure this out. I can make it happen.
There's a common theme, it seems, with people that I interview, myself included, who we sold chocolate when we were kids. We sold things because we saw others had and we didn't. We had Yaniv Rosenberg here recently, and same thing. He sold chocolates and all kinds of stuff to get ahead. And I think regardless of what a kid spends it on, I was buying Transformers because it was my only way of getting toys and things. But it early on tells us that we're capable and we can go out and do it. So what's the first job that you had? Was it in martial arts?
No. So I used to go to my mom's job after school all the time. She was a preschool teacher, and I would just go and I would like play with the after schoolers. I was only like in 6th or 7th grade at the time, so they weren't too much younger than me, but they looked up to me as like this older kid. So I would go. My job was literally just come and, hey, play kickball with them, play soccer, keep them busy. And went from like a counselor in training to a counselor there. And I taught pretty much in summer camps, just like a counselor, just teaching them, doing things, working with them for a few summers. So that was really like my first job. Then I had all sorts of jobs after that, because after high school, when I decided I wanted to teach or to fight, to go to college, I had to pay for that myself, So I had to figure out, man, I need to find some jobs and figure this out. So whatever financial aid didn't cover, I was able to get. But during that time, I also started jiu-jitsu and I fell in love with it. And I was like, man, I need a job that's going to let me do as much jiu-jitsu as I can. So whenever a job just was like, hey, you can't do this or you can't do that, I was like, oh, I got to find something else because jiu-jitsu is priority.
Man, that's fantastic. And what did you end up studying? I find this mind-blowing.
Right. So I would say this kind of, in my whole family, everyone's kind of went in that direction. But I went and I ended up studying elementary education. And I did that because my first job as a counselor, I was just like, man, I'm good with these kids. I ended up, while I was in school, going to work at a sleepaway camp, got counselor of the year out of like 100 counselors. And I was like, man, like that's something that shows I can do this. I can work with kids. And even getting my degree, I knew that I didn't want to work in the public school system. I was like, I think I want to open up my own school in some sense. And that was like one of the first goals before I opened up my academy. It was maybe after I graduate, I start a K-5 little private school type of thing, because just the way the public school system was teaching at that time, I was like, man, I feel like we're just teaching these kids to pass tests.
Yep.
And I feel like I can do so much better.
So you've kind of, now you get best of both worlds.
Exactly.
You're training in martial arts and
you're
training as an educator, because I've been there in your academy. You don't just teach a move. You're talking about life and other things with the guys, right?
Yeah, it's community is what we're trying to make. We want a place where they can come in, they feel comfortable all the time. I'm cleaning up the mats at the end of the night, and I see one person just chilling around, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And all the time, something's up. They want to talk. You're not just a coach. You're a therapist. You have so many different hats.
Yeah, and that's great that they know that they can open up to you. I think that's missing in some martial arts worlds, right? In some
of course, yeah. It's people trying to now separate themselves from their students in that sense, and it's like, hey, like we're here for you in any sense, like on and off the mats.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell me about running a business. You didn't come from an upbringing where your parents were running a business, right?
Right. No, yeah.
Any surprises there? Anything you didn't expect? How's that going?
Everything. God. It's a surprise every single day when running a business, and going into martial arts, especially as black belts or as people who have made it, in sports, we think, oh, we're just going to open the doors and people are just going to flock in.
Yeah, you were in the UFC, you got a name.
And that's just not the case. People have to know where you're at. People have to know that these things are happening. When people are coming, they have to like the vibe. You have to get people in. So many different things, so many of the back of the house things that just to get the business going that I had no idea about. I feel like it would have been better to learn some of that stuff before going in, but I like to learn by trial and error, and, it worked out, and luckily for me, I have a lot of people who I look at who are successful people in the business that I'm in that have successful gyms. And I'm like, so asking as many questions as I can to these guys. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I'm annoying you, but like, I'll pay for your time if I can. Like, I'll just think of it as like going to school again. But I just want to know, and I want to be good at it.
And are people who aren't, obviously you're not asking the closest academy, I imagine, but somebody who's not competing with you, because it's all geographic, are they usually open to share what's working for them?
Yeah. So I would say for the most part, I have a friend in Orlando. His name's Jason Patino. He had a gym called American Top Team. They switched over to now Champions, but 500 students, and I've seen him grow. That's the thing. I know it's not just someone who I just, we trained together. I saw him get his black belt. I saw when he opened up his gym. I used to train at his gym a lot. And then, boom, he blew up. So I'm like, man, asking him, how does this happen? How do you do it? My coach, Wagner Rocha, obviously one of the biggest guys in jiu-jitsu right now. Hey, like, what can I do? How can I improve? And what you said about like not asking the closest gyms, it's weird because for me, like I said, I'm like one of the few black belts that I know that goes to different schools and constantly learns. So I'm learning just different teaching styles, just how they set up their academy, their curriculum.
And they open their arms.
And, I'm always asking, I'm like, hey guys, like, and we've all kind of come to it that we're like, hey, like there's enough people out there that we can all eat.
Yeah, the pie is big enough.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is just blowing up right now. And, it's not like we're coming and we're putting signs out in front of you, but I think we can share ideas, we can grow together. Yeah, as long as we're not like across the street from each other, I think that everyone has a chance to make a living in jiu-jitsu.
Well, jiu-jitsu is growing so much that where I train, with almost within walking distance, there's a couple more academies.
Yeah, I know, definitely. Me and Adrian have talked about that plenty of times.
Yeah. At first, I imagine when he saw one of them pop up, he probably was worried because it's you could walk there. And but I think Adrian's doing okay. I think there's a big enough pie.
Yeah, and like I said, I tell people when they come into my gym, hey, do you want to do this free trial? I'd suggest that you do it because our vibe might not be your vibe. The way that we do things might be a little bit different. I'm like, maybe you're looking for more structure or more this. And I'm like, come try it out. Try other gyms because I don't want you in a place that you're not happy with.
Yeah, for a month.
Yeah, for a month. And then you're like, oh, this place sucked or something. I'm going to give you that opportunity to like, hey, try it, see if it's for you. And if it's not, try the other gym. See, maybe something else has something to offer, So I'm very like free with like, hey, try other gyms. I bring my students to other gyms because I just trust in my product. I trust in just how I treat them, the community that I've made that, hey, if they really feel like they need to go somewhere else, hey, you can go there with my blessing. I hope you have a good time.
I've heard that there's some academies. I've only trained regularly at one. I visit all others, but some academies don't allow their students to train at another. Is that insecurity?
Yeah, to me, that's like telling people who shop at Publix that they can't shop at Winn-Dixie.
Right.
And I think so. I think that's just an old school style that, people are like, oh, I've just worked so hard and I got these secrets to teach people. Everything's on YouTube now. Everything's on YouTube. Like, so there's no secrets. I'm not sure why people get like that. I think they're just really afraid that, hey, I'm going to lose this student, I guess. And it must come from a different time when, of course, like there just wasn't as many. There's so many schools now, and
there's a constant demand. You have Jocko Willink, you have Joe Rogan. They're talking about jiu-jitsu all the time.
Yeah,
and that keeps the demand up. So tell me, if there's a brown belt out there who wants to get his black belt in the next couple of years and maybe start his own academy, what are some of the tips that has helped you, Alers Martial Arts, your business, and the good ones that you see out there? What are they doing?
So definitely, making a good kids program is going to help tons. I say once you can teach kids, you can teach anyone. It's learning to have that patience, learning that people learn different ways. And when you build up that kids program too, the adults that are watching, they're like, this is cool. This is interesting. And they start to want to try the class, and then that just kind of keeps building your community in that sense of, hey, the kids are the future in that sense where now their parents are doing it and now their parents tell other people about it, and I think that's going to help so much. So definitely if you're not teaching yet, start teaching kids, teach the kids, learn how to do that. Start teaching those fundamentals. And that will get you in that sense of how to teach. Hey, I need to learn that first if I'm going to go and be the main instructor at my own academy. Right. And then finding the right place, looking for the place that you're like, hey, this is going to be a spot that I can grow my community, share what I've learned to people. And I think that's a hard part. It's just like really finding that spot that you're like, okay, this is going to be a good spot for whatever reason it is.
How long have you been in your physical spot there?
So in our spot that we're in right now, we're about to go into our 4th year, but this is our, we've been open 6 years. We had another spot for 3 years, so almost 7 years actually.
And you're tucked away a little bit in a warehouse
park. We're hidden.
People aren't driving by a main street and seeing you, but is that because they can look you up on Google? Yeah. And then friends refer friends? So
it all depends, like I said, on where's your budget too, right? So yes, I could be in a Publix plaza, and a Publix plaza is 3 times probably the amount that I'm paying in rent. And so it's getting people to know that you're there. So when I first started and I opened up my gym, I was going to the schools, and doing career days and putting flyers on every car around the area where my gym's at. We were doing door hangers. Any community event, we had a table. So it's just like, hey guys, we're here, just to let you know, like we're here. We have to let you know where we're at. Maybe you can't see us when you're driving, but we're letting you know what our presence.
Yeah.
We're out there.
Did you put some of those yourself? Hang some things on the
doors? I was doing it so much, gosh, I was, hey, this is part of my workout is I'm going to run and hang flyers or do these things, and then I had one student who was just always at the gym, and I'm like, I kind of feel bad. You're always at the gym. I'm going to give you a job, like you can help. You're always mopping and everything anyways. So then him and I were, just doing it. And then from there, we just constantly grew to get where we're at. Luckily for me, we're by 2 schools.
Yeah.
But it's just, again, letting the people know that we're there, putting out those signs. Hey, jiu-jitsu this way. And I would say most of our growth, though, has just been organically of like, hey, parents telling other parents, friends telling friends. I should do way more as far as to bring people in, but I just think I have to grow, and our academy is just already like outgrowing itself. And I think the organic growth is great because I know really everyone who's coming in. It's not just randoms. It's always somebody knows somebody. How do you know? Oh, this person told me. This person told me.
And as you continue to grow, would you go get a bigger spot, or would you open up a second academy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I would always keep our area where I'm at as like our main academy. Maybe I might make it a little bit bigger because, where we're at. It's just like units, and I can just like get another unit and get the next unit. So I think I'd always keep that as like the main academy. But my dream is to have other gyms, and it doesn't have to even be Alers martial arts. So let's say my black belt wants to open up a gym. I'm like, hey, I'm going to help you open up this gym. I'm going to give you my suppliers, how I do everything, our systems, how we sign people up, to how we do our fundamentals classes, how we do the kids classes. I'm going to help you in every sense. And I can be some kind of partner in some way. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's my dream, is to just have multiple gyms or help other people open up gyms as well.
I'm sure there's a lot of, because I acquired 14 different businesses in the apparel space before I sold my company and retired. But I saw a lot of small businesses were doing things so poorly. And as I acquired them, I was able to take their website, trademarks, and just plug it into my back office. And man, none of those came with me. I bought them all out.
Right.
But they would have been exposed to some good ways of doing things in the back office and saving money. So that's what you're talking about. You could, together with a black belt of yours.
Yeah, it's so much to learn along the way. It's like, oh, where do we get our gear from? And how did you get your mats? And what do we do this? I can help them in so many ways get past all of that because I'm like, man, I had to figure it all out myself.
The hard way.
Yeah. Let me not have you have to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for only 4 years, but I'm convinced that someday I want to have some ownership stake in some of these academies because I love the lifestyle. I love the camaraderie, seeing guys and girls develop, not just, like you said earlier, not just in the physical side of it, but they start changing. I love seeing that. You see some guy who was kind of soft. He didn't shake your hand very well, And by the end of a year, man, he's looking trim and he shakes your hand firmly.
I just always can't believe, like, it's like your kids, you know, you don't see them. Sometimes, like, you don't see the growth that they have. And when you see relatives, oh my God, you got so big, or this. And, you know, I see my students every day, and then, you know, they'll come up to me like, do you know I've lost 65 pounds? What? No way. You know, I have so many of those stories, and I'm like, man, I can't believe it. It's amazing.
That's rewarding. You know, one time I was getting ready to go speak at Florida International University. I'd spoken there probably 30 times, volunteer every time. And I told my wife when I was getting ready, I said, this is going to be the last time I go. She said, why? I said, well, first of all, I'm going to be driving there for 45 minutes. And then I talked to all these young people, and I don't think I'm making an impact because no one's ever told me I made an impact. The day I told my wife that, I spoke, and when I was done, this young guy came up and he says, you're not going to remember me. I'm a senior, but you were here 3 years ago and you sponsored a lunch for a bunch of us. And we all sat at a big table and you shared some stuff, and I asked some questions. And he said, I've lost 30 pounds since then. So he's a senior now. I may have even grown a couple inches, but he lost weight. And he says, and I started a little business and I'm making $50,000 a year.
Amazing.
And he said, and it all happened when you spoke to us because you lit some ideas in my mind, and I went and took action because I'm all about it, taking quick action. And I came back home and I told my wife, forget what I said earlier. I'm going to keep doing this because it's rewarding.
It's crazy. It's like, and that's when it happens. The other day I had a kid. He's been with me since he started high school. Now he just went to college. And he's like, hey, can I talk to you? It was his last day. I'm like, yeah. And then we go up to the office and he just like breaks down, you know, and he's like, man, I just want to tell you how thankful I am for this place. It saved my life, this, that. And I'm like, you know, and I remember I was having a hard day that day, and I was just like, man, this is why I do it. This is, even if it's just one person, you know, this is why I do it.
That's the one who told you, and that's the minority.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest are watching, and you're a leader, obviously, with everything you've done and running your academy. People are watching everything you do. And I think that we have that responsibility when we've led teams. It's to eat healthy, to exercise, to speak kindly to people because they are watching. You know, I've had a neighbor, I was training for an ultra marathon years ago, and a neighbor who I didn't know came up to me as I was jogging by. They go, excuse me. And they say, I just want you to know you don't know me, but I see you run every day.
Motivates them.
And I started running now because of that. I go, oh my God, that's someone I didn't know. And they usually won't tell you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. So what a good reason to be a great example.
If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. All right. Talk to me. You're a married man and you've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Married life, kids, all that.
Yeah. So, man, you know, my wife and I have been together since we were 15 years old.
How old are you now?
I'm 30. I'm about to be 38. Yeah, so it's been a while that we've been together. We met in high school. We went away to college together, got married. Then we had our first son. You know, we were like, this is easy. You know, we had our first kid. We both were. I was at this time I'm trying to now fight as a living. So obviously I'm not making too much money right now. And she was a teacher / waitress at the same time. She went to school for education as well. And we're just like switching off with our son back and forth whenever the other person's not working. And, we're kind of making it work until he's mobile and he was just like, hey, get me out of this playpen, get me out of this. And we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Moved down to South Florida, where we both have family. We grew up down here. My mom retired from teaching and helped out with our kids, which helped so much. We ended up having another kid, our daughter down here, who, definitely changed everything. We thought one kid was so easy. He was so simple. She was way different. She had different plans. So it's just all a learning process as being a parent is just like, hey, what's the right thing to do? My parents did it this way. Should I do it like that? I didn't like things that my parents did. Should I change it that way? You start to understand more of why your parents did things certain ways. I know for me, I understand why my mom didn't let us play outside in our neighborhood or play with other friends. Man, it was not a good neighborhood. There was like pedophiles and stuff. I looked it up, like all around that neighborhood. There's, gang members, there's this. So I'm like, man, she stopped me probably from leading down the wrong path. And, maybe it was sucky at the time, but I had my brothers and sisters to play with. But now as an adult, I'm so thankful, like, hey, like, thank you for protecting me. And I'm always just as an adult, as a father, trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, you know, with our kids? Should we
And
let
it's
them
trial and error?
Yeah, should we let them go to friends' houses? You know, you hear all these crazy things. Should we let them? You don't see kids riding their bikes around anymore. But I'm like, hey, I want to teach you guys though. Like, hey, ride the bike with me to school. Do this with me, because you got to get this some independence, because it's what I'm seeing nowadays, that kids are just being like taken care of, you know, all the way till they're 18, and then their parents are like, well, you need to get out, and they're like, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You know, you do everything for me. And that's something that I just don't want to see, you know. So it's just like, hey, you guys need to start today. My son, he's 10 years old. He has a checklist that he has that he made all himself, you know. And it happened ever since I explained to him that there's 24 hours in a day, and you only have how many hours. You're in school for this many hours, you're sleeping this many hours. And I told him, think about it. You have so many things that you want to do, but really you only have this many free hours. And so he has a checklist that he made himself, that in the morning he's like, I want to do this, and this. And he has it, and he has a night list that he checks. Wow. This. And, you know, that makes me proud. You know, I'm like, man, that's awesome that you're putting it together. And I learned through you how important it is to be organized and use your calendar, you know, and I see him doing that. And I'm like, oh man, he's on the right path.
That guy's going to be a success. Hearing that, you know, and it's intentional. He wants to accomplish certain things in his day, and he knows there's limited time because you taught him that, and now he's knocking it out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough, you know, trying to balance it all, the gym, family, husband and wife time. You know, I think that's something that a lot of times we just think family time is husband and wife time also, but it's not. We need our own time. So it's planning those things. Hey, like, mommy and daddy have to go on a date. We're going on our own little vacation, because that's your go-to. That's your everyday. That's your partner.
That's how it started.
Yeah,
it was you and
that's
your
how
wife.
It started. You know,
and there weren't.
That's
no
how
kids.
It's going to end. The kids are going to be gone.
That's right.
It's going to be me and her. So,
and if you don't get along when the kids are gone,
we don't get along. She's been my rock. I wouldn't have the gym if it wasn't for her. It was her idea. Hey, you should do this. It's a good idea. Fighting. Didn't even want to fight at first. I just was doing jiu-jitsu and MMA for fun. It was a hobby. Hey, you're at the gym all the time. You should try to take a fight. Wow. Okay.
That's interesting, because I did want to ask you about what it's like for a wife and a mom to see the husband, or your mom and your wife both seeing you fight. And even though you have a winning record and you did great, watching you get hit has gotta hurt.
My mom hated it. She went to like my first couple of fights, and she just hated like the way that the fans were like, maybe if they were like saying bad things against me. And she, you know, she's from New York and, you know, been through some stuff. So she's arguing back with them. I'm like, Mom, it's all part of, it's part of the show. Just, you know, just don't take anything personal. But she stopped going. But my wife, I mean, towards the end of my career, she was my cornerman. And like all my bare knuckle fights, I had her in the corner. All my jiu-jitsu fights now, she's there, you know, because I just feel like I'm at a point where I just want somebody who makes me feel comfortable, you know, that's there, and just, hey, tell me the right things. And she knows so much already. She's been around it. So yeah, that's a hard part of juggling. Now we train together, you know, all these things. So it's fun.
It's interesting because you run an academy together. You're married. You have kids. You guys are together a lot, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, a lot, all the time.
And how do you make that work? Because a lot of people say, I could never work with my spouse. My wife and I work together quite a bit, but I hear people say they can't make it work.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where we go back and forth with what we think is the right thing to do. But it's good to have someone that you can bounce those ideas off, you know? There's been things that I'm like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. And she's like, I don't know. And I do it, and it's a flop, you know? I'm like, you were right, you know? And it's just admitting when you were wrong, or vice versa, in that sense, because definitely being partners, it's like, hey, these are our roles that we have to do. Hey, you're in charge of the back of the house. You do this. I'm in charge of this, you know, so that we don't kind of like bump heads and get in each other's way. So
and do you know if she enjoys the part of the business that she's tasked with?
I always, you know, I ask her a lot, hey, like, you know, if this is something that you don't want to do, you know, because I know this wasn't like your dream, you know, you're definitely supporting me. Let me know. We can hopefully, you know, the goal for me is to teach people to do the things that we're doing. Oh, yeah. So that, hey, we can just, you know, check in on the gym, everything good, you know, and all those roles are placed already. You know, we have someone who does that. We have the front desk. We have the coaches in play.
Yeah, that's I can tell you from my experience of being an entrepreneur, working 12 to 16 hours a day for many, many years, the moment that my systems were okay and I started getting the right people in place, especially a right-hand man that I had, oh my God, my life changed.
That's key. Systems is the key. And with systems, we can learn what works, what doesn't work, and change those things. But without them, then we're all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over.
Who does this? Who does that? What's supposed to do next? You know? So with everything, with cleaning, with signing people up, with the way the classes are ran.
Yeah, and there's one way to do it. And if an employee, I always said, and maybe it applies here too, if an employee can think of a better way of doing it, share that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But don't just go change the way we've already built it. There's a reason we did that. That helped us quite a bit.
When I first opened up, someone suggested for me to read the E-Myth.
Yeah, Michael Gerber, I've met him.
And, I was like, oh my God, that's true, because yes, I love jiu-jitsu, but I don't want to be the pie lady who
just keeps
making pies forever. And is like, man, now I hate making pies, even though it was her passion.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to get burnt out when you're first starting a gym, because you're like there all the time. Yeah. All you're doing is teaching. You're forgetting that you need time to train yourself. Yeah. So I'm happy and blessed to say, like, I'm finally in a place that I'm like, I have people that I can trust, to be there, that the gym's running. I can go away for vacation for a week and not have to worry about the gym burning down.
Right.
So, slowly but surely, like, I want to slowly step away and have these guys, hey, this is your gym, and can give them a good wage too, that they can make a living, and just try to replicate it and do it more.
Yeah. The key is to keep all arrows aligned. You know what you want. You want independence and you want to make money. Right. You have to have the employees go in that same direction. So all your arrows are aligned.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, hey, treat this like this is your gym, and hopefully I can teach you the way that if you want to do it, I can help you do it.
Yeah. For us, the biggest benefit happened when I finally opened the books to one employee, and it's not for everybody, but it worked for me. Right. He was my vice president, and he started earning a commission, a percentage of profit, net profit. And guess what happens? He starts saving money on the rubber bands we ordered, on the boxes.
Yeah, they're like
on everything.
He's like, I can get this a little bit cheaper here, and this a little bit cheaper there. Yeah,
and he was getting 5% of the overall profits on top of a good salary, but that 5% was so meaningful to him that it made my 95% got better.
Yeah, of course.
And it covered his 5% easily. So that's something that really helps.
Learning to delegate and getting other people take care of some of those things, free up your time so you can get more important things done.
Yeah. And, Jocko Willink talks about commander's intent. It's not that I'm delegating by telling the person what to do every day at every step of the way.
Right.
But hey, Jim's the commander. His intent is to keep people here, have them happy, safe, good training environment, all the good things. And now they know how to do all that.
Yeah.
Now, when a big challenge comes up, they can call you, but they don't need, hey, now lock the door, now mop the floor.
Yeah, we don't need that. If I'm going in and I see, hey, why is the floor not mopped? Do I need to be honest? Then we have to have a conversation. But the goal is, hey, you guys should be able to take care of this.
Yeah. So what does a professional fighter with 25 pro fights, what's the body feel like at 37?
About to be 20 years in jiu-jitsu next year.
What do you feel? How do you feel when you wake up?
Yeah. So, man, definitely once I pass that 35-year-old age, I'm just not healing the same. I know I would, be in positions and I would hear some rips back in the day or hear some pops, and I'm like, I'll be good in a couple of days, And I'm noticing more and more that if I have a hard training session, and for me, Sunday is always a hard training session because I train in the mornings, usually at either Henzo's or 10th Planet or one of the gyms that have open mat. Then again, I train at night again at another gym. Jiu-Jitsu again. And those are all grappling rounds. So I'm getting 10 rounds each, and probably.
Who does a Sunday night here in South Florida Jiu-Jitsu open mat?
Maddox. It's on Griffin and Flamingo.
Okay.
His name is Ricky. We faced each other one time, and then now we're just such good friends.
So what do you feel like on Monday morning after you do that?
Man, so Monday becomes tough. So my work week is a little bit different, is that I start training hard because throughout the week I'm teaching. I don't have a lot of time to really train so much, especially if I hate taking a paying member's spot to roll or to drill or something. So only if there's an odd number do I go and roll with the people. So sometimes, I'll have 1 or 2 rolls that week only, and I'm like, man, that's not enough for me. So Saturday I start with my open mats. I drill. I train there. Mondays I come in. I have strength and conditioning. I do it with my team. Good way to just, again, show leadership. Hey, I'm doing it with you. Then I have like an MMA grappling class. When I start really feeling it, Tuesday I have no gi, I push hard. Wednesday I take like hey, this is my day off because I'm hurting. I'm sore. I'm tired. I need to relax. So I just teach those days. Just kind of take off, make sure I stretch, do those things. But
do you ever train in the gi anymore?
I teach kids in the gi.
You're not training.
No, I don't really train in the gi too much. And I started with the gi. I trained so much in the gi all the way till I would say purple belt. I won the Abu Dhabi Pro Trials, which is like a similar ADCC. There's a prince or something over there that wanted to start his own federation. When I was a purple belt, I won the black belt division there.
Wow.
So I loved the gi. And then just when I started MMA, started doing that more. And then I noticed that more of the super fights and stuff that pay for jiu-jitsu were a no-gi. So I just kind of transferred over to that. And now I was teaching gi for a long time, but as I kept going, I have a black belt now, and he's started teaching when I was gone. He was doing a good job, offered it to him. But then I realized that when we had gi during the day when I was teaching, it was mostly like the fighters and everything. So I was like, I'm going to make the day classes more like fighter themed, because most of the fighters are coming in the morning. And if you're an everyday Joe that wants to come train like with the fighters, the way the things that the fighters are doing, you're going to be able to do it too.
You don't corner for anyone, do you?
Yeah, I corner all my fighters, no matter what, no matter where they are. I'm there because I know too many times that I've had to go to fights cornerless, coachless.
That's tough. But you're coaching in jiu-jitsu, you corner any MMA?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of people now in our gym that are fighting. We have 5 people fighting in the next combat night that's down here. Combat Night's like one of the biggest organizations in South Florida, I would say. And I'm there. I have myself. I have other few coaches now that also come and help. I have only 2 pros, Chris Daniel and Philip Jackson, both with really good records. Chris Daniel, I think he's 9-4 at 125, and the other one's 1-0 as a pro, but went undefeated as an amateur. And I'm there. I'm with them wherever we're going. I just went to England to corner Chris Daniel for one of his fights. That was super cool.
What are the financials, if you don't mind sharing it? I have no clue of training someone who's going pro. Does the coach typically get a percentage of the purse?
Right. So every gym has something different. And I've trained at a lot of different gyms because I've just was always trying to improve. I moved a lot. So I got to see also just a lot of what gyms are doing, what I like and what I don't like. And so some gyms were like, hey, you need to pay a membership, but also you have to give us 10% of your purse. And so, that was one thing. Some gyms are like, hey, you just got to pay a percentage when you fight. You can train for free. And I think they decide that based on who you are already, I guess. Obviously, if you come in as an amateur, they're not going to be like, yeah, you just pay your percentage because there's nothing for you to pay. So different coaches are different. For me, I don't charge them anything if they are fighting for me to go coach them. I don't do like a 20% or anything. I have a couple of these guys that are fighting that I don't even charge them to train. I'm just like, hey, you guys take a role in the gym, helping out in some way, and that's your membership, and I'm going to be there for you for your fights, corner you. I'm going to give you those one-on-ones to make sure that you're where you're going to be. All I ask is that, hey, help this gym grow. Yeah. Because I know when I was coming up, I remember I had this one, I'm not going to say what gym it was, but I was, had to pay this crazy amount. I think by the time I ended up leaving the gym, after they took a percentage of my fight of the night bonus that I won in the UFC and my win bonus, it came out to me paying them like $750 a month. Yeah. And I'm like, man, even if you're in the UFC, your first couple fights, you're not making anything. Yeah. So $750, that's a lot of money to come out of your pocket. So I'm like, I want to see you guys succeed. Hopefully when you succeed, maybe you give back in some way. Yeah,
I think it's cool for the non-professional fighters, the hobbyists, to know that your academy also has those top guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
cool.
They see them, they look up to them. We talk about it. Hey guys, let's go support these guys. they're winning these fights because of you guys who come and train with them and make sure that they're ready, who give them their extra rounds, you know, make them a part of their fight camp.
I saw an Instagram video from your academy. What's your Instagram?
Alers Martial Arts.
Alers Martial Arts, ALER. I saw a video where someone was going to fight and you were pumping up the whole academy saying, you know, what he's going to do out in the ring or whatever. It's you guys are helping him. You're all playing a part of that. It was very motivational. I love watching
you know,
that.
And I try to keep that in their mind. Like, hey, we are a team in the kids classes when we're doing things. So we have things that we'll all do together in the kids classes. And if one person messes up, you know, so let's say we're doing iron chair. This is one thing that we do. Everybody against the wall, 1 minute sitting in that iron chair position. And if one kid stands up, hey, we're restarting. Guys, this is more than just you. We're a team. We work together. We're here together. Come on, you can do it. It's 1 minute. You can do anything for 1 minute.
Yeah.
You know, and so we have different ones that we do, plank, different things.
That's a great way to word it. So they start building team.
Yeah, and you know, I always, hey, we need to know each other. If you're going up to somebody and you say, hey, no, that's not the right way. Hey, after class, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Jim. You know, how long you've been training? That.
Yeah, we're missing that in our society with young people. Talk to me about the charity tournament that you put together.
Oh, man. So awesome. I would say I got to give credit to Craig Jones starting that CJI. You know, his whole thing, I was watching his stuff and good content. Awesome. And I'm like, man, you know what? It's true. Like, we don't need to have this giant place. Jiu-Jitsu, yes, to us, this is so big. Jiu-Jitsu is huge. But there's still people that I meet that if I tell them I do jiu-jitsu, they're like, is that kind of like karate?
Exactly.
You know, to have no idea. So we don't need these things. But the athletes, they need the cash. You know, they are trying to make it to a point where they can do this for a living. And I know how that was. It sucks to like have to work. I was like a paper boy. I was doing everything so I can find the time to train. And of course that changed once I started teaching more, started getting sponsors. The money started coming in a little bit differently. But I know as you're coming up and you're just an up and coming athlete, you know, you don't have a lot of chances to make money. And when I first started, these promotions were all doing like $1,000 absolutes, $5,000. They don't do that anymore. You win the New Breed Absolute, you win a plastic belt. You know, that's not going to help pay bills. That's not going to pay for your next registration. So I was like, you know what? I think we can do something at our gym, you know, similar. And so we did 80 kilograms and under and 80 kilograms and above. Took that from Craig Jones and offered them $1,000 each. It's a start. Hopefully I can give them bigger paydays one day. We got other sponsors who believed in our vision, and we ended up doing that. We gave $1,000 to the 80 kilograms and above, which was Achilles Rocha. He ended up winning that, submitting everybody.
How old is he?
I think he just turned 18.
Wow.
Just turned 18. Amazing. It was just, for me and my partner, Jason, for us, we just get to watch this great jiu-jitsu, and we're just like, oh my God. Oh, like, it's just amazing for us to watch these great guys come together from different gyms and really put it on the line. And so he ended up winning the over 80. And then we actually had a draw because we had this bad idea that we're not going to do again of an unlimited time.
Oh, wow.
Match, you know, it's only submission. These guys went on for an hour.
Oh boy.
We were going to move them to another match so we can start the next match. We're live streaming it for free on YouTube. Just getting these guys eyes on them.
Did you get by any chance Enrico Said in that tournament?
Yeah, man, he did awesome. He lost to Achilles.
Oh,
yeah, he lost to Achilles. He did awesome. He was amazing.
Great young kid.
Yeah, amazing. Him and Achilles had such a good match too. But they're teammates. They train all the time, so I'm sure they're used to each other. But he was awesome, and it was just super cool to like just give back. I told him, hey, we know what you guys need. We have this cameraman here who's going to be filming the content, giving you guys. So look for those submissions so that we can give you the content. You put it on your social media. You're going to get more eyes on you, right? We don't need a big venue, right? Everyone can watch it on their live stream for free on YouTube that we did, or you can give them these awesome videos, post them, get more eyes on you, get more sponsors. We're doing this completely for you guys. So everything that we raised, we gave back to the competitors with Fight of the Night bonuses and Submission of the Night bonuses. And we also donated to the Josh Saman Foundation. I think we gave $800 to the Josh Saman Foundation, which they in change give back to the community as well when they give scholarships to people who are upcoming MMA fighters, upcoming jiu-jitsu fighters. So pretty much everything went back to them.
That's amazing. And, you know, people hear about the big money MMA fighters, but man, to get there,
that's hard.
It's rough.
It's very small. And then even jiu-jitsu is even smaller.
Yeah.
You know, like there's people who are making it in jiu-jitsu who are millionaires, but I mean, that percentage is even so much smaller than the UFC.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, Jim, what do you feel in your life? What's your job as a man?
So for me, man, my job as a man is to definitely lead, you know, and lead by example and show my kids, my wife that I can handle things, and that the way that to do it is being kind, being good to people. I need to constantly show that, not just to my family, but to everybody, so that they can see what a man's like. You know, we have kids at the gym who don't have that father figure, you know, and that's where I come into play. You know, I'm not trying to be their daddy in any way, but I'm trying to show them, hey, like, you don't need to do that. That's dumb. You know, like there's better ways that you can be. There's better ways that you can do that. And so as a man, as being a good man, it's having certain core values, I would say, that you live by and sticking by them, you know, and that could be hard for some people. You might lose some friends, you might lose some money, but without those core values, like what do you have to live for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of young people, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood probably similar to yours, just outside of Oakland, California. And man, we needed guys like you in the neighborhood. We didn't have that. So I'm really glad, you know, that we're in the same South Florida area. So, because I know you're impacting a lot of young people in a great way. All right, tell us, you have a local academy. What's the website?
MMApines.com. Super easy, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for MMA and Primary Pines, right there. MMApines.com. You get to our website. Schedule, prices, everything. We're very upfront with all of it. Is on our website. You can follow us on Instagram at Alers Martial Arts, ALERS Martial Arts.com. At Gmail. And we're putting content. I have a guy out there now who's just constantly filming with us.
I see your videos on Instagram. They've leveled up.
Got a lot better. Yeah, for sure. He's killing it. And I let him use my Instagram so that he can just collab with the gym. And my Instagram has, I don't know, like 80,000 followers or something. So it helps with just getting the stuff that's out there. And you can follow me at fightgym@gmail.com. At Instagram.
On Instagram, Fight Gym. All right, Jim, thanks a lot, man. Great to get to know you even more than I thought I already did.
For sure, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.